Hey guys, Mark Fresh at ProTech Dog Training on the road again. We're heading down to good breeder friends of mine to go pick up his client and bring back the dog for in kennel. A lot of my training right now during the summer months, it starts to get where people are traveling and they realize they might as well have the dog trained at the same time that they're out of country or out of state, wherever they're traveling. So that ends up getting me pretty busy. So that's what I've been doing lately. I've been wanting to get you guys a video of Loki and his development, and he's coming along real nice. His drives have went up, and I'm pinning his ears up, so he's got that look going and doing real good. As soon as I get a chance, I will do what I can to try to get you guys a video of him and his development. We've also got the reactive German Shepherd. The reactivity is toned way down now, using my method of floating the bubble. Basically what you're doing in a nutshell with that, guys, is you're making the dog accountable to the obedience that you've already done. And with this, most of the time, because the dog has a lot of wind behind the sails, and they usually have been yanking on the owner and really going off and getting real reactive, and by the time they come to a professional, it's usually pretty pronounced, okay? That being the case, a lot of times I'll just go right to escape and avoidance and the old Keeler methods because they work. And the dog needs to learn to respect correction and learn to respect that there are rules and there are consequences from his actions, okay? How you do that is you make up sure that you set the obedience up in your neutral lab. You do things in a quiet area, you set your behaviors, you get them very accustomed and used to your right about turns, and then you start sliding in and you keep your thresholds as low as you can depending on the animal. Every animal's different. And then you start doing right about turns away from what he's keying in on. You know, don't let him key in. You watch the body language, you read the animal, and you catch him off guard. To right away, he's got to pay attention to you versus paying attention to what he's going to load up on and go off on, okay? And then you do that floating the bubble and you keep distance away from that. Distance is your friend, I've said it before, and you figure out what that distance is and then reaffirm the rules of the work. In other words, there's always little rules of the procedure, okay? And a good example of that would be, not talking about corrections here, but you ever see Michael Ellison does his tug toy and his play. He first established that there's rules in the play, and the dog is not allowed to grab the toy until he's given his marker word of yes, okay? And they set up that whole behavior, and that's using that whole method's about teaching the dog to have impulse control, okay? And to be aware and cognizant of a stimulation and understanding that he has to wait. You're basically capping his behaviors and making him understand that they've got to have rules of the game. And that's what it's all about. So the same thing applies here. You're setting up a procedure and rules involved with what he does and doesn't do, okay? And every dog is different. If the dog is, I've got another dog in right now that's a good example. He's a 7-8-year-old Australian Shepherd that's nipping at people, okay, and going out and biting people. And that's because of the breed. He's got a lot of herding instincts. He wants to nip heels, and he's doing his job. But there's a lack of leadership from the owner. There's also a lot more fear related to it. So the dog is doing it when he feels pressure, meaning there's a lot of people probably in a party, a lot of interaction with other people, and that pressure, that anxiety, that fear causes him to go ahead and make the wrong choice and ends up biting people. With that case, I'm not going to do my right about turns and to do the distance like I'm doing with the German Shepherd, because it's a lot more fear-based. We're going to do more of a management, meaning muzzles and a lot of other different things, a lot more positive association towards setting up rules and boundaries that we're doing with the Shepherd. The dogs are two different dogs, and the anxiety and the fear are coming from different places. The Shepherd's not doing it out of fear. He's doing it out of territorial and boundary type of aggression, and he has no leadership coming from his owner, so we set that in with our procedures. So again, every dog is different. I had somebody post a picture, a question, and I could sense it right away and realize that they were going after the negativity. As long as you're not using a pinch collar. Well, if people understood what they were doing and they weren't just couch potatoes, and they had as many years as I do as experience to be able to read an animal and to be in tune with that animal, then they would be able to come at me and come at me strong. But most of those people don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, excuse me for saying so, but it's reality. And they come from this all positive camp, and they think that negative is detrimental to the dog, and there's no reason to give a correction to the animal. Well, they're totally wrong, and it depends on the dog. Every dog is different. Every situation is different. We need to hone in on and key in on where did the behavior come from? What are the behavior patterns that the dog has? What instances is he showing this aggression? Okay. In the case of the Australian Shepherd, that dog is doing it instinctively out of a different place. His head is in a different place. How many times have I said it? Where is the dog's head at in the work? Where is the dog's head at in the behavior? Okay. So in that case, we would handle it differently. Every dog is different. Every relationship is different between the owner and the dog. So you got to key in on that first and analyze that and figure out where's the dog's behavior coming from. It's a lot of the reasons that I want to take the dog in and do this work myself, because I have the ability to read the animal and I can make these choices based on understanding where the dog's head's at in the work, okay, or in the behavior, okay, if it's a negative behavior. So we'll talk about that more as we go along, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit. What else can we talk about? I'm just kind of in a yacky mood because I haven't been doing any of my posts. So that is in regards to reactivity. The dog that I'm picking up now, let's go ahead and talk about that. This dog is about 2 to 3 years old, 2.5 probably. Malinois Shepherd mix, from what I understand. We're going to find out here in a bit. And I'm going to guarantee you, from talking to the person on the phone and getting an idea of what's going on with this dog, it is an animal that has not been socialized properly, okay? With high drive and insecurities and all this. And there's only so much I can do for a dog like this. When they get stuck in a kennel, get stuck in a yard, they end up becoming a lot more doggy, okay? Meaning a lot more propensities towards negative behavior, like digging, barking, possibly reactivity, insecurity with environment. There's only so much I can do to recover that dog if he hasn't been imprinted properly. You get so much more work out of a dog if the dog's been imprinted properly. I'll give you a good example of this. You see me a lot of times doing my high stepping where I've got the dog's head up high and they've got that focused heel and all that. That stuff is imprinted when the dog's a puppy, okay? This Shepherd that I've got in right now, I've been playing with that. I'm trying to get the dog's head up. I'm trying to get him excited about looking up and having focused heel, and it's just not there. And that's because the dog is older and he's never been imprinted with that behavior, okay? So there's only so much I can do for that dog. Can I get him high stepping? Can I get him looking up? Sure, with a lot of time, a lot of effort, and tenacity on my part to make sure I stay diligent in getting the dog to do that. There's a trade-off. Is it worth the work to put into that animal to get this high stepping, and how well is he going to do when he wasn't imprinted and got those drives in the right mental mind state, his state of mind in the right places that you imprint when they're young, okay? So is it worth it to put all that work into a dog that may be just mediocre overall by the time he gets done? Personally, no, I don't think so. I'm not going to put that heavy work into him. I'm playing with it. I'm trying to get him to look up. I'm trying to get him to understand the look. Can I do it? Sure. If I'm more diligent, I take my time and I'm methodical and just day in, day out, working towards that behavior of getting the dog to look at me, I can do it. Okay? But again, you've got to look at it and weigh it. Is it worth the work to put into that animal? Okay? So, and I'll be talking to the Australian Shepherd owner soon in regards to their dog at 8 years of age and them trying to correct a behavioral problem, okay, that may not be totally 100% correctable, especially if the owner doesn't get in there and diligently work the animal and constantly keep the dog pointing towards the change in behavior that we want, okay? So we'll get into more of that when we go along with the owner as well. And I guess I'm pointing this stuff out to you because I hate when I have a lot of trainers that get pretty good at what they're doing and taking a dog and they're working one animal and they get the dog to really look good, and then they call themselves a dog trainer and they go out there and they bullshit the customer to the point where they're going to tell the customer that they can get the same out of their dog, okay? It's not the case. When you have a lot better chance of getting these behaviors and getting this mental mindset, the state of mind of the dog's work and his whole work ethic and the whole 9 yards when you imprint this and you work the dog diligently towards a finished product, okay? So keep it in mind. Try to be an educated customer. Try to do your research, your development. Try to really get enough education under your belt so that you understand what a person is trying to tell you, and you can kind of weed out the chaff, so to speak, and get around all the bullshit artists that are out there. There's a lot of them, believe me. There's a lot of people, a lot of kids out there right now hanging up shingles, calling themselves a dog trainer. Within a year, 6 months, or whatever, and poof, I'm a dog trainer. And it's not the case. You have to have a lot of experience, a lot of different dogs to understand how to handle all these behavior problems that come at you from the public, okay? Sure, they can take a dog that they've got in their home, and they take that dog and they imprint and they work towards a sport, let's say, and the dog's doing real good. But can they handle the dog that's been imprinted properly and improperly with a customer that has no knowledge at all of dog training, and then fix those problems? That's an art unto itself. So it all depends on what you're after with a dog trainer, what you want, but keep it in mind when you start getting a line of bullshit given to you from somebody that calls himself a dog trainer and doesn't have a clue. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Have a good 4th of July, everybody. Bye-bye.